interests. James Enterprise Incorporated is hiring, and they will always treat their employees like family, just as they do their customers. James Enterprise Incorporated is hiring Class A and B CDL drivers, a shop tech, and a diesel mechanic. If you're looking for a career with a company that goes above and beyond to value you and your family, apply today at jamesenterpriseinc.com or call 402-432-6740.
John Henry's has a brand new membership club to protect your entire home in one program. With a VIP and a deluxe option, we will help you find the plan that best fits your needs. Receive discounts on services and equipment, priority service, complimentary inspections, and so much more. Protect your home's plumbing, heating, cooling, and electrical systems all in one membership. Call John Henry's to learn more.
435-5555. John Henry's Plumbing, Heating and Air,
and Electrical.
When you were a kid, clubs were cool. Robotics club and space club and stuff like that. But what do adults get? Book clubs and quilting clubs? Nah, forget that. How about margarita clubs and old-fashioned clubs? Get to Upside Bar and Lounge for the best clubs in town. Try all 10 varieties of Upside margaritas or old fashions and take home a free souvenir glass. Grab the whole crew and pair it with taco night on Mondays or whiskey Wednesdays. Upside Bar and Lounge at 29th and Pine Lake. 93.7 The Ticket is proud to provide listeners with daily opportunities to win contests and prizes on our airwaves, and would like to take this opportunity to remind you of a couple rules. All participants must be 21 or older and must wait 30 days after winning a prize to participate in another contest. Once you win, you have 30 days to pick up your prize at the KNTK Studios, 1040 O Street in Lincoln, where your prize will be forfeited. Thank you for participating in our contests, and thank you for listening to 93.7 The Ticket. Rosie's Sports Bar and Grill, open for lunch and dinner at 1501 Center Park Road, just south of 14th and Highway 2.
This is Lincoln's home for sports talk on the FM dial. Also online at theticketfm.com.
On the internet.
KNTK FM Firth, 93.7 The Ticket.
John Henry's has a brand new membership club to protect your entire home in one program. With a VIP and a deluxe option, we will help you find the plan that best fits your needs. Receive discounts on services and equipment, priority service, complimentary inspections, and so much more. Protect your home's plumbing, heating, cooling, and electrical systems all in one membership. Call John Henry's to learn more.
435-5555. John Henry's Plumbing, Heating and Air,
and Electrical.
Are you a skilled mechanic looking for your next opportunity? Nebco is hiring. They're looking for experienced mechanics to join our family-owned team. They offer competitive wages, great benefits, service trucks, OEM-level diagnostic software, and career growth opportunities. Apply today at nebco.com. Positions include lead and A-level mechanics for the Nebco shop. Learn more at nebco.com. If you're driven and ready to grow with a company that's been around since 1908, apply today at nebco.com.
At Allo, we go beyond internet, bringing you faster speeds backed by an all-fiber network. We go beyond TV and phone service, delivering reliable, crystal clear connections. We go beyond customer service with local teammates and no robots for a hassle-free experience. We go beyond value, offering transparent prices with no contracts, hidden fees, or data caps. We even go beyond our office doors by working, hiring, volunteering, and living in the communities we serve. Go beyond fiber. Sign up today at allofiber.com.
Load up on meat and more this spring at The Mercado by Certified Piedmontese, with great selections of T-bones, tomahawks, ribeyes, filet mignon, brisket, sirloin, and so much more. The Mercado has locations at 84th and Havelock, 30th and Yankee Hill, and now 85th and Old Cheney in Lincoln, where you can have $2 draft beer every Thursday night from 4 to 8 p.m. and half-price espresso drinks on Fridays from 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. Get to The Mercado today for the best meat in town.
This isn't any regular heat. This is nuclear heat. Live from the 93.7 The Ticket studios in the heart of Lincoln, America. Bringing you the latest from the Square Circle on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com. Here is your host, Jake Bockoven.
Yes, it is time to talk some wrestling here on 93.7 The Ticket, like we do every week at this time at 9 o'clock. It's time for Nuclear Heat here on 93.7 The Ticket. I'm Jake Bockoven, alongside my tag team partner, Augie Pena, as we are ready to talk some wrestling from this past week in the WWE. And, I can't say it's the most exciting week. There is still interesting enough stuff that we can jump into and dive into. But I've got to ask you this Augie, because we kind of get this every post WrestleMania. It's not just that you're coming off the high of WrestleMania season, everything's building toward it, but usually you'll see some of your stars out: Roman Reigns, Cody Rhodes, both guys that are kind of missing now. And it hasn't been that long, but it just reminds you really quickly, how kind of top heavy wrestling is sometimes with those top stories really carrying the mantle for the company for a long time.
Yeah, it really does. And this is, like you said, this is kind of what happens all the time after WrestleMania. But then it's also a little surprising because you do got, John Cena there. On the women's side, you pretty much have all the women, Alexa Bliss is back and Charlotte, they're all in there too. But it does feel like something is missing. And then it really makes you appreciate the fact that Roman Reigns like carried the company on his back for pretty much 5 years during the COVID era. And things like that. It's kind of like what happened when John Cena, decided to go from full time to part time, things like that. And now is a time, for the other superstars who aren't, Seth Rollins, John Cena, those guys. Now it's their chance to kind of see who can become the next star that's going to carry it, because Roman Reigns has come out and said, "Hey, pretty much after this contract, I'm probably not going to wrestle anymore either." So, all these big names are getting older and they're not going to be around for much longer.
Yeah, and I do think it has been a highlight is the women's side. Like you said, I think if we could kind of highlight two matches this week, I would probably do Tiffany Stratton and Nia Jackson. The Money in the Bank qualifier with the Alexa Bliss, Mishin, and Chelsea Green. All of that being on SmackDown. Not to say that there wasn't a whole lot on Raw, but and the only one on Raw I think that got grave reviews on the internet was Rhea Ripley and Io Sky against Julian Roxanne Perez. Yeah. So it really has been kind of something that the women have to carry a little bit, at least for this week, to kind of get you going. They've done, they kind of have set up the good guys versus the bad guys thing here rather quickly with Seth Rollins' new stable. And so that was kind of the main part in Raw. And we'll open up. Let's go ahead and start talking about Raw. We'll get into SmackDown here in just a little bit. But we opened up with the CM Punk promo. Always a good bet to have CM Punk a mic and see if it gets going. This one was exciting. I thought from the beginning you kind of had goosebumps and kind of a feeling of, okay, what is next? What is this going to look like? So CM Punk calls out. He says he's mad at himself. And he calls Seth Rollins the Timu CM Punk, which I don't know. It doesn't seem to have, like, Seth Rollins doesn't seem to have too many comparisons to CM Punk. I can see where he's going there. But in any case, it didn't take long for Paul Heyman to interrupt. And then Seth Rollins and Braun Breaker to come out with him. And as they were standing, as they came out, before going to the ring, I was thinking, okay, this is kind of the next big things. What's this going to look like? Again, can you carry this momentum, the kind of aura that you have in the room? And I don't know if it quite did. Rollins and crew, they got a chair together. They were going to go after CM Punk. Yeah. Sami Zayn and Jey Uso make the save. And again, so, it gets a pop, gets a lot of the stars in action for the live crowd. But I never really am a big fan of kind of just the good guys that aren't necessarily a tag team, but they're just kind of thrown together. CM Punk, Sami Zayn, and Jey Uso. Obviously, Zayn and Uso have a very big real connection there with the bloodline. But I don't know. It's not exactly what I was hoping to see right out of the gate, I suppose, with this feud.
Yeah, I can see it both ways because, as you said, it's fun. It's the kind of the big names that are still around right now on Raw. They're all there together. I'm going to say this for more of the comedy purpose of it. Braun Breaker needs to stop tanning, because I had to be like, what is wrong with his hands? I don't know if you saw that, but every time it looked like his hands were just dipped in Cheetos with that black suit he was wearing. So that was a little weird on there. But yeah, it's kind of a typical, kind of like what they used to do with the Judgment Day, right? Like kind of when we first started doing this show here, we would say, man, it's always Sami Zayn, Kevin Owens versus the Judgment Day versus the Bloodlines. It's same that kind of fall into that trope. You don't have something individually for all these guys. So they're like, oh, let's turn them into, tag team partners or whatever we're going to call it. Which is pretty, I'm for one, am a little surprised because we didn't really talk about it, but the Logan Paul Jey Uso match, never happened. They kind of
not yet.
Not yet. Yeah, not yet. But
Saturday night main events when it's coming up.
And that was for later on there. But yeah, it's I don't know. It's just a little interesting. That's kind of what they go to. It's, oh yeah, let's just put all these superstars together and feed the fans. It's fun. But like you and I, we're a little bit a little bit more than just regular fans. So sometimes that doesn't always, eat us up as much as it does them.
Yeah, and it's fascinating to kind of go through the all the different kind of things here because this is Braun Breaker. Remember that? I mean, they give him a belt. They've tried, he's had WrestleMania matches. So this is kind of a new character for him. And kind of just taking orders from Seth Rollins in a suit, like you said.
Yeah.
So this whole thing has kind of got to pay off for him, and I think it's got to be, the whole pairing to begin with is going to be hopefully to bring him up. You hope he doesn't fall into some sort of Solo Sikoa type of role of taking a lot of pins here. Not that that happened in this deal, but it is interesting to kind of look at moving forward. But I guess the story that was told here was, hey, the bad guys are outnumbered. And usually it's the bad guys outnumbering the good guys, and the good guys have to go find somebody. So that was kind of the idea was, well, how are they going to, who are they going to add? And that's what everybody's been asking for a long time. So I thought it did a good job of kind of bringing your hopes to see that happen. Yeah. And then they kind of swerved you a little bit later with Breaker on behalf of Seth Rollins going out and attacking Jey Uso. It was more the story of, okay, instead of we're going to add one, we're going to take one of yours away. Still confusing because is Braun Breaker's attack on Jey Uso's just got too much going on right now. Yeah. He's got Logan Paul, like you said, for Saturday Night Main Event. Gunther would come out later in the night and challenge him or tell him that the winner of that match will face. So now he's already got to think about Logan Paul and Gunther. Then Breaker's attacking him. Is he taking Jey out on behalf of them? Is that helping them? Is that going to bleed in that storyline? So there's some fun, like creative ways to go about it. But it was just kind of weird because I like the angle of everybody thinks we're going to add a third. Let's take out one. But you can't take out Jey Uso right now. He's got a championship match and he's already sidetracked. So that was the one part about it. I mean, if he would have went after, really went after Sami Zayn, and it looks like Sami Zayn's out for a couple weeks. Okay, that makes a little bit more sense from that angle.
Yeah, I don't know. It's one of those probably, WWE backed themselves in a corner. They're like, we're going to involve Jey Uso in this, but we probably shouldn't have our world heavyweight champion in this angle just right now. Because on the flip side of it all, Seth Rollins and Braun Breaker, they need to just pretty much win every feud they have for right now, right? To establish it, to get it there. They can't take, silly pins or anything like that. And then you can't have your world heavyweight champ who, already has some doubts and people were like, maybe you shouldn't have given him the belt. Can't have him on the losing side because we see that there and all that. So I can see that's where they're doing it. He'll probably come back, as right away and he just kind of go into the other storylines and they're just kind of overbooking him at the moment. So I think that's kind of just where it was from. But, could trickled into a fun little after, he is done with Logan Paul and Gunther and all that kind of. They pivoted and either Braun Breaker or Seth Rollins are like, hey, that was kind of our plan is we were back. Yeah, we were trying to go after a title.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's definitely something that was not going to be concluded with this episode of Raw. It was just part of the story, like you're saying. So we'll kind of see. Again, gives them a lot to do creatively. Just wasn't, like I said, I always love the shows for after the premium live events. Then you kind of know where they're going. And sometimes they pop off the next feud with a bang. And you're like, whoa, okay, I can't wait to see what happens next. This one, not quite so much. And I think they were hoping that you would because they did set up later in the night, too, that they were going to do this match at Saturday Night Main Event. Now that Jey Uso is out, it's going to be CM Punk and Sami Zayn against Seth Rollins and Braun Breaker, except for Jey Uso is not out because of that. He's facing Logan Paul. Yeah. So, again, just a little bit confusing with all that's going on there. Some of those, strings they can tie together and make it interesting down the line. But I don't know. This wasn't the type of segment or usage of TV that's going to get me like, oh, I need to see who wins CM Punk and Sami Zayn against Seth Rollins and Braun Breaker. They got a pretty good card actually going for that Saturday Night Main Event. And so that one actually might kind of get buried a little bit in the card.
Yeah. And the other thing about it too, is talking about that third member, how it could all tie in there. I still am just hoping Logan Paul is not the third guy they bring into that faction because he just has a lot of real life heat right now. And he's not a very popular guy. So I know they want somebody young, to kind of be that Randy Orton of the Evolution. It can't be Logan Paul. And if that's kind of the angle they're going with, it's going to be very disappointing. And I have a feeling it's not going to last long.
We'll see. That would definitely be an interesting one. I'd be intrigued by that. I'll definitely get the heat on the group.
Oh,
so.
It would. But I don't know. Is Logan Paul? I mean, I know right now he's full-time and has said he's, full-time, but you never know with him. He's got a very successful brand outside of WWE, YouTube, all that. He's in everybody's videos. who knows how much longer he even needs to be in the WWE. And I think if you're going to have somebody be that Randy Orton to the Seth Rollins and Braun Breaker, have it be somebody that's, I know he's not doing a lot. It's not, but Austin Theory, somebody that's young, somebody that can actually build it and is going to stay in WWE for a while.
Yeah, it'll definitely be interesting to see who they pick, because eventually you feel like that group, that stable needs to get a little bit bigger. Let's get to the next match here on Monday Night Raw. This is Nuclear Heat on 93.7 The Ticket. It was Chad Gable against Penta. This, of course, after El Grande Americano cost Penta the Intercontinental Championship at Backlash. This was a good match, as you would expect, between Chad Gable and Penta. Gable at one time even heard saying Lucha Libre sucks. So talk about getting some heat and not necessarily making yourself the most liked guy in the locker room with some of the new acquisitions that they have. But of course, it's all story and kind of telling it. And so I thought that was really good. Obviously, he's had this big story about trying to get over luchadors. And if you say Lucha Libre sucks, I wonder if he realizes he's offending El Grande Americano. So
right.
all that help he's been getting from him, maybe he'd start to appreciate it. But ultimately, Penta does get the win with a Mexican Destroyer, which again I think is going to continue to be the story. We've seen Penta be able to defeat Chad Gable, but El Grande Americano get the better of Penta, and so eventually it's going to have to come to a head there.
Yeah, and I thought it was just funny, like you said. Right away, I was like, man, Chad Gable can't catch a break. He's all this and that. He didn't have his WrestleMania match, but the El Grande Americano, I take it back with some of the things I said. They're kind of doing fun stuff with this. And, we're also curious to see if it really is Chad Gable behind that mask. Who knows? But I'm curious to see kind of how that goes further down the line. And I'm glad that Penta finally got a win again, because I think it's been like 2 weeks or so since he's actually gotten an actual pinfall win. And, because he's been taking a lot of L's recently.
Which is interesting, because he was one of those guys. I thought they could have had him on quite the streak. I thought they were going to do that even with the Intercontinental Championship going into WrestleMania. But of course, they went with Dirty Dom there, which I will not complain, because I've been cheering for Dirty Dom for years. But finally, they see the push and they're going to give it to him. But Penta certainly needs his victories too. And I love the Chad Gable Grande Americano thing. Have they taken the right steps every step of the way? Probably not. But it's hard to do. I mean, this is a kind of a comedy character. Guess who? Along with Chad Gable's character, who already kind of has his own shticks and stuff going on there. So I just think that's been very entertaining. From one part of American Made that's very entertaining, Chad Gable, to one that's not as entertaining. War Raiders against the Creed Brothers, the Creed Bros. Of course, New Day is the tag team champions, and they were on commentary. They actually cost the War Raiders the win, which is interesting, because Creed Brothers are now the number one contenders thanks to the New Day.
Yeah.
So, and you've got two heels going there. So it'll be interesting to see, maybe somehow you get a triple threat out of this or something going on. I know their world wasn't necessarily clamoring for more War Raiders and New Day, so at least there's kind of something there, a little bit different if they're going to throw the Creed Brothers in there as well. But I just have to say this, because again, it was noticeable in the television product and just online. People were kind of mentioning it. Crowd not really into this one.
Yeah, no, not at all. And I think, we kind of talked about it when Chad Gable left American Alpha Academy to go to American Made. And
eventually, at first he was American Alpha, right?
Yeah. And then they changed it, and but they're still the Creed Brothers within that, so it's confusing. But we talked about it. This could have gone either way, and I feel like it's going the wrong way. This seemed like the perfect pairing. They're buff gym guys. I think they're actually amateur wrestlers as well, and you pair that with an Olympic gold medalist, or bronze. He's an Olympic medalist for Team USA, and Chad Gable, somebody who we think just doesn't get enough of his flowers for everything he's done on there. And unfortunately, it's just those two, the Creed Brothers, and Ivy Nile. I'm just kind of not interested in any of them outside of when they're doing their segments with Chad Gable, and that's not good. And then of course we talked about the War Raiders. They're just kind of two guys that used to come out in Viking, attire, and now I don't know. They're just kind of the same. But that tag team division is kind of lacking again, because and then the New Day, they're just kind of heels, but they haven't really paid off, other than they got their WrestleMania moment there again, and they got that, but the whole thing with Biggie, that's kind of looming, and they haven't really done much, so yeah, it's kind of very disappointing.
The
all
tag team
around.
division is just kind of dry. I was again surprised that the War Raiders and New Day was the idea for WrestleMania. And it's just kind of even compared to the SmackDown tag team, which you could argue about maybe like are any of these guys going to be future world champions over there? But they actually have really good tag
They
teams
do.
putting on quality matches, and there's enough competition that for a while there is a little bit worried they're flopping the belt a little bit too much. But at least on that side, it's just notable. It's something you can expect when you tune into SmackDown, a continued story of something that's kind of interesting. Here, they've just kind of, I don't know. Part of it's the Judgment Day is not really in the tag team division really right now, and this doesn't have a whole lot of it. Even the Creed brothers, like we're mentioning, don't have their best part with just Chad Gable focused in on them. So I mean, they got to find some way to kind of make this interesting. Maybe they think a triple threat will do it, but I don't know. They got a long ways to go, and I still can't really forgive them for losing the heat that the New Day had. The New Day at one time after the Big E turn was just that's what you went with after all those years of selling merch and keeping the good guys together. And they said they'd never break it up, and of course every group says that, but they lasted for like 10 years, and you finally do it, and they have all that heat, and then all of a sudden it was just kind of slowly withered away week after week, and now they're the champions. But I don't necessarily have a care factor all that much for what's going to happen next with them.
Yeah, it's very disappointing on what they've done, and it just hasn't been great. Like you said, they were one of the best tag team just in general, tag teams, their 10-year anniversary, Biggie comes that no real payoff, and part of that probably is because Biggie maybe really isn't cleared, on there. But yeah, they just haven't really done much. And you pointed something out, the Judgment Day outside of Dom, kind of, with the I mean, they've kind of been sidelined there too. And that's, a faction. I know it's not the same faction, but it's a part of a faction that's been, dominating Raw for the past 2 to 3 years, and kind of got them sidelined too, and so what was it 2 weeks ago when Finn and JD had a number 1 contenders match? That could have been a perfect time to insert them again, and they decided not to.
Yeah, and of course Liv Morgan off filming, so they're tag champions, but they're not showing it. So it just on the men's side, the tag team division needs some help on Raw. As we mentioned, at this point in the show, the CM Punk, Sami Zayn, Seth Rollins, Braun Breaker match was announced. And then we had Jey Uso come to the ring. We kind of mentioned it a little bit already. He was cut off by Gunther 2 weeks before his match with Logan Paul. Of course, now that being just now this next Saturday, Gunther announced that he will face the winner on June 9th Raw, which is very interesting. We talked about how Raw coming to Omaha had a championship match that none of us really expected. I still feel like with the new Netflix deal and all that worldwide, they're trying to really put a good product out there. So, we've got Money in the Bank. We've got Saturday Night Main Event. Now we've got a championship match on Raw to look forward to. So I thought that was very interesting. And then, you have to think there's hardly any chance that it would be for Jey Uso to lose that one. I think you're going to see a rematch with Jey Uso and Gunther.
Yeah, I think that's where we're going with it. And it's WWE's got to watch out because, they're doing that with Raw, but it just feels weird when a world championship like that one of the top 2 is not defended on one of your top 4 premium live events. Because we'd say there's about the big 4, right? It's the Royal Rumble, WrestleMania, Money in the Bank, and SummerSlam. Those are your 4 biggest premium live events. And you're not going to have your World Heavyweight Championship be defended, on one of those. You're picking a Monday Night Raw, which is fine for, like you said, for the Raw part of it. But the fact that literally Money in the Bank, I think, is 2 days before that, and they're choosing to do that. I don't know. That I wouldn't do that if I were them, but that's the way they're going with it, I guess.
Yeah, well, they keep you coming back to the TV, so I guess they've got that going.
True.
Or I guess you have to go back to paying your Netflix bill to be going to it. But that's just 2 days afterwards. So that is an interesting decision, and it just kind of makes you wonder about kind of different ways going forward. Can Gunther lose twice to Jey Uso? I mean, obviously, I think he would have some sort of screwy finish to get him into his next feud, I would hope.
Yeah.
But it's kind of an interesting way to go about it. Not to have I guess just to say this, that they might have Jey Uso reface Gunther, but not to have done it at Backlash.
Yeah.
It's just kind of like, I don't understand what, the math we're doing here.
Yeah, they went a little bit of a different way with Backlash this year. They didn't really rehash all of those, or they just mix them in like with Damien and Drew, could just put them in something else there. But one thing I do want to point out, they're doing it 2 days after Money in the Bank. Do we have a cash in that Monday night that, that changes everything? Because, I would say a lot of people maybe aren't fans of the cashing in on the same day, right? Like, because then you have it 2 days later, the next show. That's, that could be money depending on who it is, depending on who they decide to give that Money in the Bank to. They could be cooking something there.
That's true. That is the excitement of Money in the Bank, is that at any time any of these matches, it can go down like that. So that could be something to look forward to. And like I was saying, just WWE kind of stacking these events here as they move forward. By the way, this one right after this was when Uso was attacked backstage by Braun Breaker, as we were talking earlier. Kind of in between two feuds there. So not sure what it means for either of them. I mean, I expect them to be healthy. And it's again too, I always like the WWE math where, like, you get like 3 finishers put on your ring, and you're still you're still barely fighting out. But if you get hit once and backstage, everybody back there just has a job.
Yeah.
Easy job.
Or you get thrown over a box and you're out.
Just done.
You're just done. Yep. There's no stamina. It must be an adrenaline thing in the ring, right? Just keeps you going. Because backstage, you're just caught off guard. Maybe you just say something at catering and someone comes and just slaps you. It could really knock everything off. So I guess, I don't know. That is hilarious for you to point that out.
But it's just hard. It's hard to figure out sometimes what they're doing, because they're like, is he brutally being backstage, beaten backstage to write him off? Or it doesn't look all that brutal, so is this just kind of an attack? And we'll see next week. I
don't know. The whole thing with Jay, like you said, is just confusing, because it'd be different if he wasn't going to be at Saturday Night Main Event, but he's defending his championship at Saturday Night Main Event, which could be some interference, some screwy stuff. But yeah, you attacked him backstage. That just that doesn't make sense there, unless, like I said, Logan Paul is that third guy that they're going for, and that's kind of where they initiate him. I don't know.
I know you're not cheering for it, but I think I might pop for it. I think I might be interested if they do that. But we'll see. We've all got our favorites and folks we don't necessarily cheer for. I've noticed Logan Paul's not among your favorites.
No, we'll just keep it there. We'll keep it at. He's not. I don't hate the guy, right? There's very few people that I can use that word for. He's just somebody I'm just not particularly fond of anymore.
Well, fair enough. Let's continue on Raw here. This is where, by the way, I did want to say this while Uso is being attacked backstage. Finn Balor was talking to Roxanne Perez for the second week in a row. So maybe something's kind of going on there, as we are still kind of, the slow play of Finn Balor breaking away from the Judgment Day. So it's been like 2 years I think we thought that he might break up.
Yeah, they're really stringing us along with this. And you know what? Now that Dom has that title, you're kind of, back then we'd probably be like, man, you're just dragging us along. Now it's like, oh, okay, now we got to tune in. Is this the week? But with Roxanne Perez, they've been putting her in high feuds.
Oh yeah.
Does she help Finn break out of it? Does she help Finn? Cost Dom something like that, and then they kind of go into their own thing. It could be pretty interesting to see there.
Yeah, I think when Liv does return, I am almost going to be expecting Roxanne. Maybe that's how they're going to do it. So, sometimes they pay off on those, sometimes they don't, which is what I like too. And what I would be doing if I was in WWE is always just have something a little interesting going on in the background, and for people to pick
very
out.
Surprised it wasn't Killian Cross, because he seems to always be the guy that every segment he's in the back watching, he's laughing, he's talking to somebody.
Yeah.
This time it was Finn and Roxanne. So.
And anyways, Finn Balor did have a matchup this evening against AJ Styles. He was trying to take out AJ Styles, the AJ Styles problem for Dom. This was, of course, a matchup of two guys that were one-time leaders of the Bullet Club. So we had This Is Awesome chants. WWE at times has, that's kind of a story outside of the WWE, but they've acknowledged it at times, and then other times, not so much. And it was like they kind of did, but not enough, I think, for what was at stake here. I mean, for, Bullet Club fans, AJ Styles and Finn Balor is about as good as it gets. And so this was a fine match, as you would expect. Finn Balor had the help of Carlito and JD McDonough, but Penna actually came out and took out Carlito and JD McDonough. distract Balor while AJ Styles hit the phenomenal forearm for the win. Notable that no Dom Mysterio at ringside either for Finn Balor in this one.
Yeah, and a part of that is Penta is still possibly going after that title, so there's that. Things like that. But yeah, this was a good match. And the interesting thing about like the Bullet Club thing is they've had a version of the Bullet Club, I think, in NXT when Finn was there, but they've never brought it back with Finn and AJ, who, like you said, are the two biggest names and have led it before. So that is always a little fun. And you know what? I think it's always fun to see AJ Styles wrestle still, because he's another guy that has also said, hey, 2 more years probably and I'm done. So they're kind of just doing like all these retirement, matches and kind of getting some things out. Not retirement, but kind of getting some of these banger of the matches out there, because these guys won't be there for a while. But once again, hey, Finn Balor took another loss. Still just continuing that story, I guess.
Yeah, Finn Balor takes more losses than anybody on the roster, unfortunately. But he's on TV every week. He gets a lot of TV time out of it, but it is what it is there for him. Looks like probably AJ Styles and Dominic Mysterio is kind of the story they were telling. Is AJ is going to be going after Dominic if he can win, and there's the win. And I think he had a conversation backstage the previous week, basically circling the Intercontinental Championship as well. So that could be an entertaining match and interesting to see what they would do there as well. I don't know if that would be Money in the Bank or where they would do that. Maybe Saturday Night Main Event even. So we'll have to see this week.
Yeah, it'd be fun to see. I think that'd be a fun match.
Good story.
See. Yeah. So yeah, any feud they want to put Dom in right now for that title, with that title, I think everybody's going to eat that up.
Oh, absolutely. Let's go ahead and take a quick break here on Nuclear Heat. We've got a little bit of Raw and a whole episode of SmackDown to talk about when we get back here on 93.7 The Ticket.
Rosie's Sports Bar and Grill, open for lunch and dinner at 1501 Center Park Road, just south of 14th and Highway 2.
Are you a skilled mechanic looking for your next opportunity? Nebco is hiring. They're looking for experienced mechanics to join our family-owned team. They offer competitive wages, great benefits, service trucks, OEM-level diagnostic software, and career growth opportunities. Apply today at nebco.com. Positions include lead and A-level mechanics for the Nebco shop. Learn more at nebco.com. If you're driven and ready to grow with a company that's been around since 1908, apply today at nebco.com.
John Henry's has a brand new membership club to protect your entire home in one program. With a VIP and a deluxe option, we will help you find the plan that best fits your needs. Receive discounts on services and equipment, priority service, complimentary inspections, and so much more. Protect your home's plumbing, heating, cooling, and electrical systems all in one membership. Call John Henry's to learn more.
435-5555. John Henry's Plumbing, Heating and Air.
And electrical.
At Allo, we go beyond internet, bringing you faster speeds backed by an all-fiber network. We go beyond TV and phone service, delivering reliable, crystal clear connections. We go beyond customer service with local teammates and no robots for a hassle-free experience. We go beyond value, offering transparent prices with no contracts, hidden fees, or data caps. We even go beyond our office doors by working, hiring, volunteering, and living in the communities we serve. Go beyond fiber. Sign up today at allofiber.com.
Load up on meat and more this spring at the Mercado by Certified Piedmontese with great selections of T-bones, tomahawks, ribeyes, filet mignon, brisket, sirloin, and so much more. The Mercado has locations at 84th and Havelock, 30th and Yankee Hill, and now 85th and Old Cheney in Lincoln, where you can have $2 draft beer every Thursday night from 4 to 8 p.m. and half-price espresso drinks on Fridays from 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. Get to the Mercado today for the best meat in town.
Ticket listeners know a dream team when they see one. At Applied Connective, we've been in the game for 20 years and have developed a team of world-class leaders in all things IT. From cybersecurity and Microsoft products to physical security, audio-video, infrastructure, business phone systems, and anything in between. We'll help you leverage technology to become your most secure, efficient, and profitable. Head to our website to check out real reviews and testimonials and sign up for a free tech consultation. We can show you where you might be vulnerable, inefficient, or overspending. It's a game changer, and it's totally free. Claim yours right now at appliedconnective.com.
Support Matt Talbot Kitchen and Outreach on Give to Lincoln Day. Your gift will be received by a portion of Lincoln Community Foundation's matching fund. Homelessness is a complex problem facing our community. By working together, we can find solutions. Your donation for Give to Lincoln Day moves us closer to ensuring that everyone in Lincoln has a safe place to sleep at night. Because of your generosity, hope lives here. Give anytime through May 29th at givetolincoln.com.
At Parkview Animal Hospital in Lincoln, it's not just their professional care that sets them apart, but their warm staff and state-of-the-art facilities. Whether it's for a routine checkup or a comprehensive medical procedure, at Parkview, your pet isn't just another number, but a valued member of their caring family. Visit them at pahlincoln.com today and in person just south of 14th and Pine Lake Road. Parkview Animal Hospital, your pet, their passion for happier, healthier, furry friends.
I'm Karen Carr. I've been a realtor for 31 years. When I made a company change 12 years ago, I chose Lincoln First Realty, now NP Dodge. It's the oldest independently owned realty company in the country. Since becoming NP Dodge, we've continued our tradition of community involvement. Our management and staff are always available to offer support in marketing, technology, social media, and educational opportunities.
Expand your career with NP Dodge. Call Eric at 402-434-2222.
At Allo, we go beyond internet, bringing you faster speeds backed by an all-fiber network. We go beyond TV and phone service, delivering reliable, crystal clear connections. We go beyond customer service with local teammates and no robots for a hassle-free experience. We go beyond value, offering transparent prices with no contracts, hidden fees, or data caps. We even go beyond our office doors by working, hiring, volunteering, and living in the communities we serve. Go beyond fiber. Sign up today at allofiber.com.
Back to Nuclear Heat with your host, Jake Bockoven on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
Well, that's right. This is Nuclear Heat here on 93.7 The Ticket. I'm Jake Bockoven, and we were talking some wrestling as we almost got through last week's episode of Raw. Just a few more segments for us to get to before we jump into SmackDown. Where we left off was Becky Lynch hitting the ring for her promo. She warned the locker room just how dangerous she is now after she's kind of turning her attention after that loss to Lyra Valkyria. She said once she starts winning, fans couldn't relate to her anymore. So I thought that was kind of good. She gets the fans to kind of cheer against her. There's still the crowd that's always going to be cheering for her. And she also said, I am whoever you say I am. So a little shout out to Eminem there.
Yeah, that's pretty good. And I think, I've said it. I'm a little tired of the man, and all that stuff. And it is because she was so dominant, for a while. It's kind of what Rhea Ripley's going through right now, right? Is there was really nobody that could pin her, that should pin her. And that kind of gets a little stale, after a while. And she just kind of keeps coming back in the man character. I need to, flip it over and maybe, I know she's a heel right now, but maybe they do turn her into. She doesn't have to be the Irish lass kicker. I don't expect her to come out to that anymore, but maybe just change it up a little bit.
All right, that big time Bex thing I thought was a lot worse of a pivot from the man.
That is true. This could be a really fun time to have her and Seth Rollins do something together because he's forming a faction.
Yeah, both heels.
I mean, I'm just saying they could do it there. They have an opportunity. They've had them in matches before, and stuff like that. So I think that'd be a lot of fun.
Well, and I'm trying to think, it's always an excuse to try to find a way to get AJ Lee back in, CM Punk.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
There you go.
Yep. Because then CM Punk would need somebody, and all of a sudden, you have that anime type music, which was AJ Lee's just, and boom. Now, oh my gosh, the internet would break.
Oh yeah,
she came back, but I don't even think she's wrestled in like 5, 6, 7 years. I don't even think she's done any of that. So
yeah,
we could be like, come back, and then she's very rusty, and then we're like, maybe you should have stayed retired. So I mean, that's kind of the double-edged sword of it too. There,
that happens with a lot of our heroes, unfortunately, once they see them return. But it is what it is. Main event: Rhea Ripley and Io Sky against Julia and Roxanne Perez, the upstarts from NXT. Competitive match as you would expect, but Ripley ultimately wins with a headbutt and a riptide on Julia, seemingly. As they kind of close this out, looked to be the end of that feud. Julia, in fact, was drafted, or I shouldn't say drafted, but announced to be on the SmackDown roster on Friday. We'll see what happens with Roxanne Perez. Like we said, maybe something to do with Finn Balor in the Judgment Day. And then the attention kind of focused on Rhea Ripley against Io Sky. Is it going to happen again? The teammates now they kind of had the thing where they usually do, like, can they coexist?
Yeah,
and they didn't really lean on that too much, but it's just kind of like, okay, they're friends, They're going to take care of these NXT women that have something to say, and then focus on the championship. So it's been pretty good filler, I think, and kind of a way to do it, and certainly has shined a light on Julia and Roxanne Perez as coming up. But I don't know. I mean, Rhea Ripley and Io Sky is always fun, no matter when you do it. But they're gonna have to add something here to kind of get that spark going there.
Yeah, because they went from Rhea giving her an opportunity, Io wins right before WrestleMania, and then Io felt disrespected by her, and Bianca, and then all of a sudden, Io wins again, and then she saves Io, and it's kind of it's some confusing storytelling, but like you said, it's been, those two can at least put on a good match and all that stuff, and it hasn't been the worst on there, and it's of course with Bianca out with that legitimate injury too, they got to fill it, but here's the thing: if they run that again, can Rhea lose a third time to Io? Or she's never beaten her, right? I think that's the story they were telling there. Or do you have Rhea recapture it, Money in the Bank? One of the 4 premium live events, main ones. I mean, it's kind of a tricky situation there, because I think Io's doing a great job as champion. The fans are really behind her. I think she has her emo in Fortnite now.
Nice.
The whole thing she does there. So taking the belt off of her right now, I think would be a little bit too soon. But like I said, I don't know if you can have Rhea still keep that momentum, but have lost to essentially the same opponent. That would be the 3 times in a row there.
Yeah, and just long term, I don't know if I'd love that. And they can do this at times, but the Io moment that they had at WrestleMania and the matchup with Bianca Belair was fantastic. It will go down as one of the best, women's matches that they've had, or matches in general at WrestleMania. But it was all kind of, it felt a little unnecessary to get Io Sky the belt if you don't have a plan for her afterwards, I guess would be my idea, because just kind of borrowing Rhea Ripley's spotlight a little bit and shining it on Io. Like, I get it, but that's just not what I would have done if my idea was immediately to turn around and give it to Rhea. It would almost be like it was her year. Let's pause for WrestleMania season and not give her that part of it, and then we'll restart and give it back to her. It's just kind of like, why? That seemed like the worst timing that you took a break from Super Rhea.
Yep. No, I agree with it 100% there. I don't know if they can do that, because Io, I mean, she's wrestled Stephanie Valkyra in a match that was disrupted. She's wrestled Roxanne Perez. Is that the one that was?
I believe so.
And then back to Rhea, if possibly. So I mean, it could be there, but I do like, that they brought Roxanne Perez and Julia, and I was a little skeptical. We talked about, we didn't know them all that much, but newbies, they put on really good matches in the ring. So I'm curious to see kind of where they go with those, because they've been in a program with Io. I mean, you can't really, you can't really come into a better debut than, being in a feud with the women's world champ. And I know they haven't really gotten any wins, but they've been holding their own.
Yeah, that's kind of the old getting over without going over type of idea in wrestling, where you kind of get the rub from some of the top people in the business, and you might not get the win. It might not be quite time for your ultimate day and for them to put the belt around you and build the company around you, but it at least shows a promise into the future, which I think worked with them. All right, let's get into WWE SmackDown. After Backlash here, we opened up with Solo Sikoa, Jeff Cobb, and Jacob Fatu hitting the ring, but he shall no longer be known as Jeff Cobb. For a while in the first part of the show, it was just JC. Then later we found out it's JC Mateo. We said the other day, Jeff Cobb sounds like maybe one of your middle school classmates or something like that. So interesting to go away from it, but it's a name that he had established in wrestling. Now to just kind of switch it to JC Mateo is interesting. We'll see if it long term, if that lands. But obviously, he's aligned with Solo Sikoa and Jacob Fatu. Solo Sikoa wanted the love from Jacob Fatu, got a little bit of it. wasn't enough for him. So he was. It seemed like we were kind of getting to that boiling tension that we're seeing between these two over the last several weeks. Before LA Knight's music hit, he came out, got a quick attack on JC before running away. Of course, he was upset that Jeff Cobb, again, JC Mateo, interrupted the previous week. So that was kind of the story they're telling. Interesting. Jacob Fatu, again, the crowd is so behind him for a guy that's supposedly a heel too. It's interesting. And then we'll talk about it a little bit later, but Solo Sikoa actually had a pretty good night himself. I don't know. This was fine, but it did not feel like an opening segment to me for SmackDown.
Yeah, it was a little bit. It just felt like you said, just felt off, right? It felt a little weird, a little bit different there. They're still running that storyline. I do like the name change. I will say that I was glad because I didn't get to watch it live. I saw on Twitter like JC Mateo beat this and that. I was like, who is JC Mateo?
Oh, yeah.
And then I was like, oh, okay, they listened to us. Jeff Cobb is not his name any longer, and JC Mateo sounds a little bit more like Fatu Uso, Sikoa kind of runs. Mateo, I think it could be a Filipino name because I think that's what we said. Jeff Cobb was. So, that goes there a little bit, but it is what it is. They may be pushing Solo to something here.
Yeah.
Who knows? And then, I mean, like I said, I'm kind of interested in a program between Jacob Fatu and Solo Sikoa. So, they're kind of teasing us a little bit.
Yeah, looks like that one will be coming. I sure hope it won't end with Solo Sikoa winning Money in the Bank and cashing in on a mid-card title. But, you never know with what they've got going on. That could be it. Then we did have a Money in the Bank triple threat qualifier, I should say. Alexa Bliss, Michin, and Chelsea Green. Of course, if you listen to the show, we're big Chelsea Green fans and Alexa Bliss fans. So this one was a little bit hard. Sorry, Michin. I just wasn't cheering for you as much, but still pretty good wrestler herself. Few botches in this match, especially early, but I like the storytelling. Michin and Alexa Bliss somewhat at times, kind of getting Chelsea Green was getting on their nerves or whatever. Yep. So they kind of formed a little bit of a pair there. Green ultimately hit Michin with an unprettier before Bliss hit her sister Abigail DDT on Green for the win. The crowd pops. Of course, they're excited for Alexa Bliss and Chelsea Green's character again, still wearing the black after losing that U.S. title. Her antics are always incredible. I would have to say it again, as I would always say it. I think any matchup with Chelsea Green would be better, especially Money in the Bank type of situation. I think that was where her and Tiffany really put on a show last year. Mm-hmm. So I would have loved to see that again. Unfortunately, she won't be in the matchup, but Alexa Bliss being in it is fantastic. I do always wonder too how they get these sometimes they tell the story of like, well, you haven't earned a qualifying match and you kind of get through weeks and then you have to kind of earn it. And then sometimes they're just like, you three randomly just deserve a qualifying match. Go ahead.
Yeah. But I was just a little, it was a good match, fun match. But of course, like you said, Chelsea Green not winning, I think is bad. And it stinks because when you saw the lineup and you're like Alexa Bliss versus Chelsea Green versus Michin, and you're like, one of the favorites, one of the fan favorites is not going to be in Money in the Bank, which, like you said, I mean, could you imagine after the U.S. title run that she had, where I know it wasn't amazing, but she elevated that thing with her character. If she would have, if they would have pushed her enough, gave her the Money in the Bank, let her kind of, roll with that for a year.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, my gosh. That could have been an amazing thing.
She would be insufferable with that Money in the Bank.
It would have been the most. She still could have had her service, there with her, protecting that Money in the Bank, kind of teasing us. And next year, WrestleMania could have been the perfect time to have her cash in. Oh, that could have been perfect. And I mean, they still could, they could do something to maybe get her in to a qualifying match again there. But yeah, Alexa Bliss winning is a good idea. Like you said, sorry, Michin. Michin has had a decent year though.
Oh,
She was in a lot of title runs. She was the runner up for the US title with Chelsea Green there. So, you go with that. But yeah, Alexa Bliss going there. I'm glad they finally have her doing stuff again. She's back. Because it looks like the White Six, don't know what's going on there. And things like that. But at least, she's now getting to be on TV again.
We got plenty more to talk about here in our SmackDown review, as a lot of more matches made for Saturday night's main event than we had. What I thought was a really good match with Tiffany Stratton and Nia Jax for the championship. So let's take a quick break. We'll be back on Nuclear Heat with more on 93.7 The Ticket.
Load up on meat and more this spring at the Mercado by Certified Piedmontese with great selections of T-bones, tomahawks, ribeyes, filet mignon, brisket, sirloin, and so much more. The Mercado has locations at 84th and Havelock, 30th and Yankee Hill, and now 85th and Old Cheney in Lincoln, where you can have $2 draft beer every Thursday night from 4 to 8 p.m. and half-price espresso drinks on Fridays from 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. Get to the Mercado today for the best meat in town. The end of the school year is drawing near, which means graduation parties are coming soon. Are you prepared for hosting? Führer's Cheese Spread is the dip that brings everyone together to celebrate graduations and the close to a great school year. And it goes well with crackers, meats, soups, and more. How could you consider throwing a party without it? Get to your local grocery store today and load up on Führer's Cheese Spread. No graduation party is complete without it.
Jumpstart your summer to the max. Walk into any Max Tan in Lincoln and get a $5 standing tan session or a $5 red light wellness booth session. Your summer tan starts today with $5 sessions at Max Tan with 3 Lincoln locations.
Support Matt Talbot Kitchen and Outreach on Give to Lincoln Day. Your gift will be received by a portion of Lincoln Community Foundation's matching fund. Homelessness is a complex problem facing our community. By working together, we can find solutions. Your donation for Give to Lincoln Day moves us closer to ensuring that everyone in Lincoln has a safe place to sleep at night. Because of your generosity, hope lives here. Give anytime through May 29th at givetolincoln.com.
Are you ready for a new opportunity? Check out Sandhills Global. Join a dynamic team where your skills are valued and your career can soar. We offer full-time positions with a 4.5-day work week, competitive pay, excellent benefits, and a positive work environment. From IT and marketing to sales and finance, we're looking for talented individuals just like you. Apply today at sandhills.jobs and take the first step towards an exciting future. That's sandhills.jobs. Don't wait, apply now.
Mike, I've been thinking our house could really use a makeover. How about new siding?
I've been thinking the same thing. Have you heard of James Hardy?
Yes! Sarah down the street had Roofing Service Company install James Hardy siding on their home, and they love it.
Roofing Service Company does have great reviews.
They took her through the design process and made everything super easy.
Roofing Service Company offers expert design and installation. Couple that with James Hardy's durable products and variety of colors, you and your family will love your exterior remodel. Just visit roofingservicecompany.com. That's roofingservicecompany.com.
Keep summer green with Judson Baleen and Judson Irrigation. More than 40 years ago, Judson Irrigation started taking in orphans. Lawn sprinkler systems installed by a quickie, cheapy summer job, install 'em and forget 'em outfit, long forgotten. Call Judson Irrigation. They'll never forget you.
Keep summer green. Call Judson Irrigation 402-420-6277 or judsonirrigation.com.
Make sure you tune in every Saturday from 11 to 12 for all things youth football with Tank Perry and Jim Sandman. Learn how the game of youth football has grown in and around the capital city with coaches, athletic directors, and league commissioners telling you all about it. It's all things youth football with Tank Perry and Jim Sandman every Saturday from 11 to noon right here on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
Are you looking for an exciting new way to put your skills to work? Explore new career options in the fintech industry at Currency, a Sandhills Global company. We offer full-time positions in financial sales, compliance, operations, and other fields. We also offer a 4.5-day work week, an attractive benefits package, and opportunities for advancement. Put your motivation to work and grow with us at Currency. Visit gocurrency.com/careers to learn more.
Back to Nuclear Heat with your host, Jake Bockoven on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
Yes, we are back here on Nuclear Heat, ready to talk some SmackDown as we just got through a few matches so far. And we are reviewing this past week's SmackDown here on Nuclear Heat on 93.7 The Ticket. I'm Jake Bockoven. He is Augie Pena. And Fraxium seems to be kind of taking over SmackDown the last couple of weeks. They had a matchup with DIY this past week. This is Awesome Chance going on throughout the arena. Ultimately, Axiom from Fraxium reverses the Gargano roll-up for the win. DIY attacks immediately, and Motor City Machine Guns comes out to make the save. Kind of as we were talking about earlier, you know, I don't know if any of these guys are future, world champions with, as singles competitors, but you kind of just got everybody mixed up. Fraxium, even the new team, they've kind of brought in now to kind of get a chance. And I think later in the show, they even were told, yeah, you've earned a shot at the belts.
Yeah. And, the brand, the draft has to be coming up pretty soon, right? Comes up sometime after WrestleMania here.
If they do it. Some years they don't.
You know what? This year, they did nothing with it. Carmelo Hayes was your number one pick, and then everybody was still on the brand. But what I was going to propose is you just got to bring some of those SmackDown tag teams moving over to Raw. You got the Netflix deal. I like SmackDown. I personally, I remember it back in the day, when we first moved to Lincoln, things like that. We didn't have cable. We had bunny ears. And one of the channels was the CW or whatever it's called before. And Friday Night SmackDown.
Yeah.
So we got that for free. One of the 4 channels. So every Friday night in high school and all that stuff, I'd watch it. So, SmackDown has a good place in my heart there. But, Netflix Raw is kind of the big show, so you probably want, it to have the best male, women, things like that, competitors, tag team included. And we talked about earlier, I think on Raw side, the New Day should be able to just hold it on their own, but it's just not clicking. So you can move one of these teams over there and kind of help out that issue there.
Yeah. Might not be the worst idea once they kind of get through them, to kind of spice it up a little bit. Speaking of spicing up, R-Truth had an interview in the back, and revealed that it's going to be Truth versus Cena at Saturday Night Main Event. Of course, this is one Truth has 0% chance at winning. So I kind of like those sometimes though, because then it's all up to them to make it entertaining.
Yep.
So they kind of have to go overboard to make it as entertaining as they can. And with Truth and Cena involved, in kind of this just long-term story of Truth looking up to his childhood hero, despite being a few years older than him, it's going to be fun. So, I mean, I think this is, I don't know. I don't expect it to be the main event of Saturday Night Main Event, but this is going to be fun when they do it.
Oh, this is great. This is probably, I was still more hyped for Randy versus John Cena, but this is up there. This is really up there. And they can do so much with R-Truth. They can have him keep doing this character. Little Jimmy gets involved. They could have 2011 R-Truth come out. They can have him come out to his What's Up song. Just that the possibilities are endless. Maybe he doesn't want to wrestle John. It just turns into a big story. But can you imagine? Like, obviously, he's not gonna do it. He's not gonna beat John Cena. But could you just imagine how big of a storyline it could be? If let's say they run this back, R-Truth beats John Cena for the world heavy, and he's never won.
Yeah,
one of those. He was like the 24/7 champion or whatever it was, things like that. But he's never won like a true, real championship, I think, and never a world title. Could you imagine if he got his first one at the age of like 55 against his childhood hero, 48-year-old John Cena? That's the guy he pins.
Well, and I think those near falls are going to be fun.
Oh,
just for the off chance that it ever did happen. And a reminder that R-Truth, even at his age, is actually really good in the ring.
Yes.
I think because of his comedy character, we kind of forget that, but he's really athletic and put on some good moves in the ring. So it should be fun if they allow them to kind of explore, those different angles to make it a little bit more entertaining. We also had Aleister Black against Carmelo Hayes. Black won the previous match against Hayes, so they were set for the rematch. Miz intervened this week, but ended up eating Black Mass from Aleister Black. Carmelo then hit a finisher of nothing but net to stand tall. I thought that was kind of interesting. I don't know if I would have done that to Black right away, but I know they're kind of trying to tell the story of Carmelo versus Black here. And they didn't give Carmelo the win. So, there's at least that he didn't lose. But I don't know. It's again, I'm very intrigued or just kind of interested that they gave Carmelo the number 1 draft pick and now the Andre, and now they're just kind of feeding him to Aleister Black, it looks like, because it wouldn't make any sense for Carmelo really to come out of this feud on top.
No, it wouldn't, because, like you said, Aleister Black just came back. He's kind of a big free agent signing again. We don't want him to get lost in the shuffle like he was last time he was here, which is ultimately why he got released and went to AEW and all that stuff. And he's a really cool guy. He has a really cool character, so they can push him to the moon. But like you said, it's coming at the cost of your boy Carmelo Hayes, who, is the Andre the Giant number 1 draft pick, was just doing nothing before any of that. And yeah, he's going to be the guy that loses to Aleister Black now. I mean, and they paired him with The Miz. They had him doing stuff with The Miz, who always gives, a big rub and things like that. But these things aren't really looking up for him.
It is odd, and I don't know what's missing there. He's got the athleticism. He's pretty good with the mic, at least with enthusiasm. Yeah. But he has been given a lot, and it just doesn't seem like anything's quite getting him over. So we'll kind of see what they do there. We're going to go quickly here. Drew McIntyre, Damian Priest now set up for a Steel's cage match at Saturday Night Main Event. So that feud won't go anywhere. It has to end in a cage, of course. Money in the Bank qualifier match. We mentioned Solo Sikoa ends up spiking Jimmy Uso. Ray Phoenix. Jimmy Uso also in that match, but Solo Sikoa gets the opportunity to fight in Money in the Bank this year. Julia, we mentioned, is now a member of SmackDown. Charlotte Flair doesn't need Alexa Bliss. She made that clear to Alexa. And then the other two matches to finish off the night: LA Knight against JC Mateo. Kind of a one-sided match. Mateo, well, not kind of squashed, but still kind of had the upper hand in this match and does ultimately get the win in his debut. You kind of have to go that way in a debut match. And then Tiffany Stratton and Nia Jax. This one I was just fascinated by. Naomi, Jade Cargill didn't need their brawl to kind of prevent the distraction, but you kind of had that in the middle of it. Very surprised to see Nia Jax kick out of the prettiest moonsault ever. First time that's been done. Probably would have waited, at some point to kind of bring that up, build that up, and do it again, or to wait for the moment for someone to kick out. But it did make it very interesting. It's like they might just go with Nia Jax here, especially after she hit her Annihilator. But Tiffany was able to grab the rope. Ultimately, Tiffany hits Jax and bloodies her up with by kicking the chair that Jax was grabbing. That actually Naomi brought out earlier, but really did bust Jax open. So up. So it looked pretty rough, and it was a good match overall, I thought.
Yeah, no, I thought it was a good match overall. A lot of close finishes, like you said. Good things there. I know I wasn't always a big supporter of this match here, but I thought, like you said, we didn't need the Naomi and Jade thing, but man, Tiffany and Nia, they delivered a banger there. I'd say that was like a 4-star match.
Yeah. It was entertaining, and we'll see what's next for each of them, because I wouldn't be completely shocked if we see them fight again after putting that on and just the history they have. But that'll wrap it up for Nuclear Heat this week. Actually going to take a few weeks off as I am headed for a little bit of a vacation, but we'll be back right after the Money in the Bank premium live event again, which will be shortly after the Saturday night main event. So we got plenty to talk about coming up here at Nuclear Heat in a few weeks. Thanks for joining us tonight, and we will see you in a few weeks, and we'll also see you bright and early tomorrow morning for Early Break.